I wanted to talk about sort of the absurdity of life and how I've sort of started to realize like everything around me is just absurd and it doesn't really matter. I'm not saying that in a sort of nihilistic way. I'm saying it more in like a, where have we gone as a society and as humanity type of way. Um, this idea first started to ponder in my head about a year ago. I found myself laughing really hard at like really strange things, oftentimes relating to like my friends. So I'd like laugh at my friends when they do weird things, and not like a douchebaggy like haha look at you way, but it was just like we'd be doing random things like we'd play video games, and I would just start laughing when they didn't say anything funny or there was nothing going on. Recently, like a few weeks ago, I went to the store to help my friend buy like PC equipment, like parts to build his PC. And he was at the checkout line, and I don't know what it was, but I thought it was so funny him just checking out. Like that's like an objectively not a very funny thing. There was no jokes, there was no anything being said. And the cashier was just like asking him about like to sign up for the rewards and all this stuff. And all of a sudden I start laughing so hard I fall to the ground, my abs are hurting, I'm crying. Like it was just so fun. And they were like, "What is wrong with this kid? Why is he laughing?" And I realized the reason that I've been laughing, and those are just two cases, but it happens a couple times a week where I just will laugh at something random, and it's because I'm laughing at how absurd my life and the people's life is around me, and like how we just do all these things that we made up ourselves. Like we'll make up a problem and then go through the problem and solve it when we're the ones that made it in the first place. It didn't even need to exist. Like it's just so random, and everything's gotten so absurd. We've taken away like the romantic, the poetic, the sacrificial aspects of life that made it so beautiful. We've taken away like love, and I feel like our society has been morally degeneralizing, or I don't know if I said that right. Like it's you know we're becoming more and more degenerate as a society, and doing things that taking away the value in uh super powerful things such as like intimacy or love, or these things will just start doing like the most random stuff that doesn't really matter in ruining value in life. um Anytime you go to like a store, you're waiting in line, like people are like at a restaurant, you're waiting for food, you look around, and the joke was that the kids would always be on the tablets, but now it's not even kids, it's adults, it's everybody. They're just, what I'm saying, everywhere you go. And it's so absurd because literally 50 years ago that wasn't even a thing. And it's sort of it's led to everybody disassociating from themselves. Like we used to have communities, and now we're more and more apart, which is weird because we on the internet you can be connected with somebody across the globe in a matter of seconds, but yet we're more far apart than ever before. And I started to recognize these things, and I find them so absurd. It almost like ruins things in life. Like, I'm at my job, they were like, I normally, I've always like done like the morning shifts, and worked like morning through the evening, but I've never closed. And they recently had me closing, and so I had to like go through the process of learning how to close. And they had to do like 50 different precautions when you close that are just so stupid, so absurd. And the lady, such a nice lady, who was like teaching me how to close and everything, like she was like going through the specifics, and she's like, "You're gonna want to make sure to do this." And I can't come up with like a specific off the top of my head, but it was like, when you're closing the cash drawer, put in like how much cash there is, and it would say like amount, and then like I would just put the amount, and I wouldn't put the like .00 for 0 cents, and I wouldn't put the dollar sign. And she's like, "You're gonna want to make sure to put that." But it wasn't like I was doing it in a software like a computer. It was on the sheet of paper that would just tell somebody. So I was like, it literally doesn't matter. And it was like small things like that, and there was like 50 different ones. And she's like, "You're just gonna want to do it because it's just like you just want to make sure that they know." And I'm like, it was just objectively so absurd and stupid that I was like, listen, no disrespect, but like I'm not getting paid enough to care. Like, I know it sounds douchebaggy. Like, I really don't mean to sound douchebaggy. I didn't mean to sound it to her. That's why I was like, no disrespect. But I'm like, this is just so absurd, so stupid. I'm not getting paid enough to care. I'm moving in a month, so I'm not going to be able to work that job anymore. And like, I don't care if I get fired. So, I had to end up talking to my manager, and, like my manager and assistant manager were like telling me, "Hey, you got to do this." You need to start doing this. And I said, okay. I said, if I don't do it, you can fire me, and I might not do it. And like, they were mad at me for saying that. And then I realized, I was like, you know, I have every right to say that. Like, I'm not saying that in an entitled way, but I'm like, you can fire me. So I can do whatever action that I want, and you have the right to fire me, and I won't be mad if you fire me. But like, you can't like look at this and be like, you have to do exactly what I say. It was like, I'm not your slave, bro. Like, I understand I'm getting paid, but I was like, I'm not gonna do. This sounds so absurd. Like, I don't know how crazy I sound. Like, they're like, you're doing what you're supposed to do for your job. Like, in my job, I've always done what I'm supposed to do, and like, I have like, I get rated by customers. I have great ratings, everything like that. That stuff I understand, doing a good job helping the customers, but it's just like some of these things, they straight up don't matter. They're just like being monotonous and like over the top about this for something that doesn't matter, doesn't affect anything, and I just find that stupid and absurd. And so, when I said it, it wasn't like a douchebaggy thing. I was like, you can fire me. Like, I'm okay with being fired. It just, in my head, I can't justify me taking like all the time to like learn like outside of work, like, and study how all the 50 different steps in the 45 minutes that it takes to close this store, because I simply can't care enough, because it's so absurd. I care about like things like relationships, family, my faith, like in life, and I start to do these stupid little absurd tasks, and it's gotten so extensive to the point where, and I don't know if any of you guys have felt this before either, but like everything is just so pointless that I literally, like, in my head, like, I'm like, I wish that I would go on a plane, the plane would crash, and I'd go on an island and have to survive with people, kind of like the TV show Lost or something, like do that. Or like, I wish like I would, like, it sounds crazy, and it's objectively like a bad way to live. Like, you shouldn't want to crash, and like, I understand it's a bad thing. I understand my life is better. Like, I know that, but I'm like, I'm just so bored, and all the things that are going on are so absurd and like pointless, that I'm just like, let's switch it up somehow. Like, give me a good story. Let me get in a situation where I have to like survive some crazy serial killer. And I literally know how crazy that sounds. Like, that's just like stupid. You shouldn't want to do it. But like, I'm just so bored with all the pointless and absurd things that are going on, that I'm like, let's do something to spice this up. You know what I'm saying? Like, put me on a island with a little shotty, and like, give me something to like live for. Like, I don't know. I just feel like the day to day is so mundane, so monotonous, so boring. Like, I get so like, and it's the same every day. I'm like, can we switch it up? Like, um, give me like a real challenge to overcome, because everything is like so like, everybody's just a slave wage and everyone's just going through the process. I'm like, I want something new to come up. But yeah, like, the whole reason I was laughing, going back to that, was just because everything is so absurd. Like, we create issues as humans just so that we can solve them, because we basically build a society where like the basic needs are met, like water, food, shelter, that stuff is met. So now we need a new problem to solve in our life because we're like bored. So we make like new problems. Like, we invented like technology, and then there's errors in the technology. We had to go fix that. And we've invented like money. And then we, like, most people stress over money, including myself, but it's just like a man-made thing. And it's just like, the reality is like, we're just becoming slaves to all these things that we create. As Tyler Durden would say in Fight Club, the things you own end up owning you. I'm gonna make a separate video about that, but everything is so absurd. Like, I'll see like my parents, they work from home, and they'll go on these meetings, and they'll be like, they'll do like the small talk every single day with these people on these meetings. And, they never say it, but my parents are very nice people, but they don't like these people that they work with. And they're tired of working these trash jobs where they just work from home and they're so disassociated. And I have the most respect for them. And, they've done so much for me, and, they do it to provide for the family. So I respect that, and it's honorable. But like, it's so absurd and it's so ridiculous. Like, what they're doing is just so like, nothing matters. I always said this, and people get mad at me because it sounds super like nihilistic and like negative, but I was like, everybody in the history of the high school that I went to ceased to exist, the world would be the exact same. We've made no difference, and that's just the truth. Like, if you're really being like, truthful with yourself, honest, if you're really being objective, like, no one's really gone on to do anything. And that's the reality for like most of the jobs that we've done. Most of the jobs that humans have nowadays, like in the United States, like, go back 100 years, and like 95% of those jobs didn't exist. Like, it was really like labor intensive jobs many years ago, and they didn't have computers and stuff. So like, accounting was by paper and like just stuff like this. And it wasn't nearly as extensive. So we just create these issues and then we try to solve them, but then we're all just like stuck in this like absurd, like slave wage life. And, the only way out of it is to let go completely of all these attachments and be willing to, yet like at my job, like I was just willing to get fired because I'm like, hey, like I know that's like an entitled thing, because a lot of you might be watching this video and saying like, oh, I can't afford to not have a job. Like I would try to get a different job, but it's almost like I'm at the point where it's like I don't even know if like being homeless would be worse than slaving away at a job. There's like a quote, and I'm gonna botch it, so I'm just gonna paraphrase it, but it's like there was like an artist, and he said like the absurdity of life is that you buy a car to drive to the job, to then get the money to pay off the car that you bought to go to the job, and you buy a house to live in a house which you leave vacant all day to go to your job to pay off the house that you leave vacant all day for the job. And he was like, it's just like stuff like that. And it's just everything is so absurd, and it's like it just cracks me up. And it's like the only way to get out of it is to really like let go of that which doesn't matter. These things don't matter. I really just want to like move to like the middle of nowhere and like, like Iceland, or like, I don't know, like just move out to like the middle of nowhere and just build a cottage and like actually do things every day that matter to me, like hunt for food, or like have to go to markets and trade, or like do this, like, because I just feel like it would be more fulfilling, or move to Costa Rica and live off the land, and have to build something for myself, because I think that would be fulfilling. Like this life in, these first world countries with all this technology, with such a disassociated like group of peers and everything, it drives me crazy, because it's just so ridiculous. Like everything we do, everything we care about is so ridiculous and absurd. But that's just me, and I could be wrong, but yeah.